Okie dokie. I have no idea how to rank these, so I don't think I'm gonna try. Except for the top two, probably. So, today I'm gonna film my top books of 2020. I filmed my worst books of 2020 yesterday, and then at the end my camera battery died, so I couldn't film my best books because I was going to do it back to back. And got it all ready. But oh well, I just had to do my makeup again today. I don't know where to start. I love all of these books so much. Should I go in chronological order? Yeah. So, the first book that is one of my favourites for 2020 is Norwegian Wood by Haruki Murakami. So I read this quite early on into lockdown, I think. It was definitely, I think it was like the 12th book I read this year or something like that. It was one of the books I started reading when I really got into reading again. And I really love the way it's written. This isn't the kind of popular edition that you tend to get, like the red one with the white thing, because this is my uncle's edition, and unfortunately he passed away this year, but this was kind of left to me, which is great. So it's also got like that special meaning as well because he was a huge Murakami fan, and Murakami's works are definitely ones that I want to get into more, so I'm quite excited for that. I'm so bad at explaining plots. So Norwegian Wood is written by Haruki Murakami, who is Japanese, and it centres on a lot of like Japanese culture and stuff. So one of the main character hears the song Norwegian Wood, and it takes him back to thinking about when he was younger, when he was a teenager and falling in love for the first time, and everything that went down really. And it's a really good book. I just loved how it was written. The imagery was just beautiful. Like everything that Murakami wrote, I felt as if I was there because it was so detailed and just so lovely. Like, I don't know how to describe it because it is hard to describe, but I don't know, his books were just, well, this books, I haven't read another one yet, but yeah, I have just loved it. It's a huge commentary on like social life, relationships within young people in Japan, so it's super interesting, and a lot on mental health issues as well, and yeah, I just love the way it's written, I really do. Excuse me, fly. Go away. I'm trying to film here. But yeah, I really love this book. One of like my favourites of 2020, and I read it really early on, so that's a good sign. Pretty soon after that actually, I read Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and I just fell in love with it. It's so Daisy Jones and the Six is about the fictional band the fictional band The Six and Daisy Jones, and it was just so vibrant. I think that's the best word I can use, because everything about this book made me think that the characters were real. Like, I just loved it because you genuinely felt like the band was real. Like, I could, if I'd looked at my phone and gone on Spotify and looked up The Six and they were there, I would have been like, yeah, they've always been there. They've always been there, kind of thing. So the book, kind of the blurb, is talking about how the band broke up and nobody ever knew why until now. So it centres on the band members and what led to the downfall of the band. So you kind of get the rise and then the downfall and exactly what happened. So it's told through the form of like interviews. So you get to know each character quite well, and they have quite unique voices because you get to kind of see them all interviewed. They talk through their experiences and what exactly happened. You get to see different things from different points of view, which I always love. Like, I love seeing one situation from two different perspectives. So like one person seeing it as X and one person seeing it as Y, because in real life you just don't get that, and I find that quite frustrating sometimes, because obviously we've all got our own bias to seeing it one way or the other, and through this you get to kind of see the different ways they've seen it as, and then what that's led to in their behaviours, which I really loved. Also some amazing quotes in this book, like especially from Daisy Jones. There's some really like feminist moments. Yeah, really great book, loved this. And then after reading Daisy Jones, I immediately went into reading The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, also by Taylor Jenkins Reid. And honestly I think that was the right way around to do it. So Evelyn Hugo was released after Daisy Jones, and Evelyn Hugo's been massively popular on Bookstagram, but I've seen a lot of people say when they've read Daisy Jones that they didn't like it as much as Evelyn Hugo, and I think that's partly because they've read it the wrong way round. I think Daisy Jones is very different to Evelyn Hugo, and if you read this first you might have higher expectations for Daisy Jones. And obviously it might just be because people don't like the stories as much, they don't connect with characters as much, but I do think that is a massive consideration. They're written very differently. I mean, they're a bit similar in some ways, but they're also very different. So I think you have to take that into consideration, and don't put the hype of one book onto the next. That's what I'm trying not to do for Taylor Jenkins Reid's novel coming out in 2021, Malibu Rising. I'm trying not to put my expectations from Daisy Jones and Evelyn Hugo onto that, because I've also been working my way through Taylor Jenkins Reid's backlog, so I've been watching her writing evolve, which is really interesting. But anyway, I should tell you what the book's about. So Evelyn Hugo is about the 7 husbands of Evelyn Hugo. So it focuses on Evelyn Hugo, who is a Hollywood actress, like in, is it the 50s? Or is it earlier than that? It starts off like in the 1940s or 50s or something like that. And you go through Evelyn's life and the relationships she's had and what made her such an iconic figure. I don't want to spoil too much about this, but it is really phenomenal and it's not all what you'd think. So Evelyn is writing a biography of her life and she asks this woman to write it, and this woman has no idea why, because like she's never met Evelyn, like she's a kind of nobody journalist, but Evelyn asks her to write this and she's really confused, and as you go through the book you start to understand why. But yeah, phenomenal book, so good, made me full on ugly cry, and I mean like ugly cry. Not even at the bits you'd expect to cry to in this if you've read it, but it was just one line said by Monique, the journalist, that just completely threw me and I was like, I can't deal with this. And it wasn't like, it was actually quite a sweet line, but I was just like, can't relate, and then I cried because it got to me. But yeah, fun book. So the next book is also one I read over the summer, and that is 1,000 Ships by Natalie Haynes. So this is, I love it. I love it so much. So this book focuses on the women involved in the Trojan War. So the goddesses who have kind of participated in the war, the warriors of the women warriors who have participated in the war, the women displaced by the war, the women cast aside because of the war. Like, oh, so good. I love it so much. And so each chapter is a different woman's perspective, and they all have such unique voices. They're so well written and understood. Like, Natalie Haynes understands mythology so well. I am in such envy. If you don't follow her on Instagram and her Ovid stories, like, you need to. But each woman has a distinct voice, and I think my favourite is either Penelope or Calypso. They're both so well written, but I just love them. I really want to reread this soon because I think it is potentially one of my favourite books ever. Like, the more I think about it, the more I'm like, I love this. Like, I just love it so much. But yeah, I desperately need to reread this soon, especially now that I actually have a physical copy, because I read it on ebook when I first read it. And again, there are so many quotable, like, quotes from this, because it's just so beautifully written, and I love it so much. I don't know what to say about it. I am honestly so rubbish when it comes to talking about books that I like, because I just want to be like, I love them, just take the hearts. I don't know what to say. So, sticking with the mythology theme, the next book that I read and absolutely loved is Love in Colour by Bolu Babalola, and this also features different women for different chapters. So each chapter focuses on a goddess. So you've got goddesses from across Africa, like in Nigeria. I can't think of the other African countries at the moment, but there's also a chapter on a goddess from Greek mythology, and it's just so well written. Like, this book makes you fall in love with love, especially I think her opening like kind of author's note just made me feel so warm inside, and all of these stories do, because they represent the women so well and they represent these relationships really well, and it's just so engaging. Like, and they're quite short chapters as well, so you can read like one in the middle of the book and then one at the end of the book, because they're not connected, so you can just reread your favourite ones as well, and they're just so good. And they're kind of, some of them are a more modern retelling of like love stories between gods and goddesses, and some of them are like a little older, but they're all genuinely amazing. Like, this book is so worth it. If you don't have it and you love mythology, get it. It is honestly incredible, and I really mean that. Next we have These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong. So this is also one of my favourite books of the year. So this book has been super hyped online, and I'm so glad, because it deserves it. So These Violent Delights is a Romeo and Juliet retelling, taking place in Shanghai in, I think, 1926, and there's also a monster. So it's Roma and Juliet rather than Romeo and Juliet. Juliet is in a crime family, has been in Shanghai for like centuries, and Roma is part of a, I think, Russian family that has recently come to Shanghai and set up camp, and they're both kind of at war with each other, but they used to like each other, they used to be friends. So throughout the book you kind of uncover why they suddenly hate each other, and that like they have to team up to defeat this monster that's spreading a kind of pandemic around the city, and they have to find out what's happening and how to stop it because it's indiscriminate and it's affecting both of their gangs. So they want to kind of stop it, but they can only do that by working together. It's really, really good. The writing is incredible, and every time I thought I knew where it was going because I know the story of Romeo and Juliet. It took me by surprise. So if you want to go into this but you're like, oh, I know what happens in Romeo and Juliet, like, do I really want to waste money on a retelling? Do, because you're not wasting your money. It's fabulously written anyway, but also it does throw you through a loop, so I would definitely recommend it. I am so excited to see what Chloe Gong does next, and I just love this book, which my boyfriend is going to be super happy about. We have The Hobbit by J.R. Tolkien. So I read this for the Tolkien Along hosted by Books Nest, Fiction Tea and Frolic Through Fiction, and I just adored this. I've got a reading vlog for this if you want to check it out. I will put it in the cards if I remember and in the description, but yeah, I loved this. I just thought it was super engaging. I rated it 5 stars. I just loved the imagery. Obviously Tolkien's descriptions can be a bit much at times, but I thought in this it was done really well, and I loved the pictures as well. Obviously this one is more aimed at children in Tolkien's time. Now I would probably not give this to a child, maybe like when they turned 13, but yeah, I really, really enjoyed this, and I can see why so many people love it, because it's a perfect introduction into the world and to the characters, and it's just fun as well. Like, it's such a fun book that I can properly imagine it just curling up with this and being like, yeah, I'm just gonna take my time reading this and just have fun, because it is funny and the characters are great because Frodo isn't in it. Oh, amazing. We love to see it. Okay, next we have The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. This is not a surprise to me at all. I knew that I was gonna love this book. So The Midnight Library is about a woman, Nora, who is between life and death. So the book starts off really, really sadly, and then you get to this stage where you go to the Midnight Library with her, and you can essentially look at all of the what ifs from your life. So all the things that you regret. So for example, if Nora regretted not travelling enough, she could read a book. Well, she could like get thrown into this vision of what her life would have been like if she had travelled more. So it's like, it shows you all of the alternate paths, and I love the concept because I spend so much of my time going like, but what if this? What if this? What if I'd done this instead? What if I'd chosen this? And as an overthinker and someone who can get quite anxious, that is a horrible thing to do, but I do it. But I really loved reading this because it had so many good messages and was just so beautifully written, and the ending I just loved. Like, I loved the whole thing. I cried like 20 pages in, and then luckily I didn't cry again, so I'm quite proud of myself for that. But yeah, I spent the longest time putting this off because I knew I'd love it. But yeah, I am super happy that I eventually read this, and yeah, I want to read this again at some point. I just love Matt Haig's writing so much. So yeah. Next, which will come as a surprise to approximately no one, we have the Poppy War series by R.F. Kuang. I'm not going to hold them all up, but this is the Poppy War, and it is the Illumicrate edition, so we love to see it. But the Poppy War focuses on the character Rin, who is trying to escape her life in the town of Tickney, and she takes this test and gets sent to a military academy, the top place in the country, and starts to learn the basics of war. And then the rest of the series kind of follows on from that. I don't want to say too much because I have read the whole series and I don't want to spoil anything, but honestly, this is incredibly written. I don't know how else to describe it. The writing, the history, everything, insane. So this is based on Chinese history, and there are some very direct and gruesome parallels with things that did happen in Chinese history. This is not a book for the faint-hearted. It is not at all young adult fantasy. This is very much adult fantasy. So don't think it will be, but it is incredible. There's a heavy list of trigger warnings, so please do look them up if you are going to consider reading this and could get triggered by things. But it is genuinely an incredible series, and I am so glad I discovered it this year. So yeah, I don't know what else to say about it because I have raved about it so many times, but honestly, incredible. I really can't wait to see what R.F. Kuang does next. I know she's working on a dark academia Oxford novel, and I am excited because I want to know what she did, because she started this so young that I'm just like, I am wasting my life. I could be writing stuff like this and I'm just not. So there's some food for thought. And then finally, if you've been paying attention to my last videos or my Instagram, you will not be surprised because I have discovered that this is my favourite book ever. So this is The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. This book, when I finished reading this, I literally just hugged it for like 10 minutes because I was just so in love with it. So The Starless Sea is about Zachary Ezra Rollins, who finds this book in the library at his university, and one of the chapters in it literally describes an exact thing that happened to him when he was younger, and like, it is him in the book and he knows this, and he's like, this is really strange, like, what? So he's desperately trying to search for answers and find out who wrote this book and why they knew this about him, because he was alone when it happened. And it's so interesting. So essentially there's this huge library underground, and it has lots of stories, and he's trying to search for the answers. He's trying to find out if there are any more stories about his life, but he ends up finding all of these other stories and looking for people who are lost, looking to kind of solve things that are going wrong. And it's just, I mean, one of the criticisms people have for this book is that the plot can be fairly non-existent, and that is a fair criticism, but I love it because the beautiful magical writing makes up for it to me. And so like each chapter you get Zachary's chapters, like where he's doing things, and then you also get like a short chapter of one of the stories from the books, and I just love it. It's incredible and magical and everything that I love in a book. The characters were fleshed out, they were amazing, and there was adventure. It was, I honestly don't know how to describe this. It's just vibes, and it's just incredible. It's just beautiful in every sense of the word, like cover, quantity, quality, just amazing. I love it. It's a weird one. I think there will definitely be people who don't like this, but I really, really loved it, and I cannot wait to read The Night Circus in 2021. But yeah, I just adore this, I really do. And I am so bad at explaining it, because there is plot, and like when I was reading it I was really coherent of what was happening, but then putting it down I was like, oh, that was amazing. And then I just couldn't think of what happened, because I was just like, I loved it. I just loved it. And all of my thoughts when I think of it are just like heart eyes. So yeah, but amazing book, loved it. Can't wait for The Night Circus to read, and that will probably end up in my favourites for next year, so stay tuned for that. But that is my best books of 2020, or my favourite books of 2020, whatever I'm going to call this. Let me know down in the comments what yours were. I am always on the hunt for recommendations for books, so fill me in, let me know what books were you loving. If you've read any of these, what did you think of them? Because I obviously adored them all. But just let me know if you've bought any of these because of my recommendations. Let me know. Just let me know anything really. And don't forget to like this video, and comment whatever you want. Maybe comment a star so I know you're here, and then also don't forget to subscribe to me, and I will see you in the next one. Okay, bye guys.